Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. It is Super Bowl Sunday and I'm gonna have a long day in the kitchen. Here's what the plan for today is. So my husband and I are going to a Super Bowl party with my family around 3 p.m. It is currently almost 10 and basically everyone's bringing a bunch of different foods, but I signed up to bring chips, queso, and salsa. Now I could just buy all those at the store, but the Magnolia Table Cookbook had a great party queso that I tried about a year ago, and so I wanted to make that. And my mother-in-law has a great salsa recipe. So I was gonna make a huge batch of her salsa, can it, and bring one of the cans over for the game. And then we have additional cans of salsa that I don't have to buy at the store, and it feels very homesteady. So today's gonna be a canning day. The other thing I wanna do is make some more white bread. So basically once a week, I make a loaf of white bread, slice it up and freeze it, and then I make avocado toast with an egg for my breakfast throughout the week. So I need to restock on my white bread. I'll take you through all that as well. But this is basically just gonna be like a little kitchen vlog of me prepping some food and putting into practice some of the homesteading skills that I've learned. Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. We are growing over here. I am so thankful to all of you for subscribing. So if you like the videos and don't want to miss one, make sure to subscribe. Okay, let's get started with some of our Super Bowl prep. Okay, so I think we're gonna start with the salsa, because again, it's 10 o'clock right now. I have till 3 p.m. We probably need to leave around 2:40 for this party. The queso, they say, only takes about 20 minutes. I'm gonna double that time just to give myself a little bit of buffer. So I'll start that around 2. So I'm gonna get the salsa going first, then we'll start the bread, and then later we'll do the queso. All right, so what we need for the salsa is just a 28-ounce can of tomatoes, small red onion, a jalapeno, 1 garlic clove, 1 lime, some cilantro leaves, salt, pepper, and olive oil. It's really easy. You just take all the ingredients, chop them up in a food processor, put them in a big pot, simmer it a little bit, and can it. So it's not complicated, but I am making 5 times the recipe. So I got all my cans. I have all my onions here. Let me pull out the jalapenos. Okay, we got those. We got our garlic. We have our salt and pepper and our cilantro. I also have 12 16-ounce cans, and I don't think there's gonna be enough salsa to fill all those, but some of them I'll put the queso in because I'm pretty sure the queso makes like a huge batch. So I'll have some cans to give out to people, bring extra for the party, and then keep some for ourselves. At least in theory. I don't exactly remember how much it makes, honestly. Now my food processor is pretty small, so I'm actually going to blend all these and mix them in my Vitamix. So I'm gonna get that out. This is like the shortest cord ever, but that's my only complaint. Everything else I love. I'm also gonna take out my big pot that I will be cooking the salsa in. And my plan is I'm just gonna chop up each individual ingredient, like do all the tomatoes at once, put them in here, then the onions, then the jalapenos, combine them in here, and then just heat it up and simmer it a little bit. I'm going to start opening all these cans. I also am gonna get a bowl out so that I can drain the extra juice from the tomatoes, because that is called for in the recipe, and then you can kind of just add the juice as you go. Like if it's getting a little too thick, you can add some of the juice back in. Based on the amount that this is already filling up the Vitamix, I'm not gonna be able to get 10 cans in here, so we'll do this in phases. Okay, this is 5 cans. We're gonna start with this. Now I want some chunks, so it doesn't have to be perfectly, you know, pulverized or anything, but I am gonna just set it on maybe low speed for a little bit. Okay, easy enough. I love the Vitamix because it really evenly blends things. I think in the food processor, there were some chunks of tomato that were kind of stuck at the top, and that's why there were big chunks of tomato, but this Vitamix really gets it all blended very quickly. So I'm gonna dump that first batch into our big pot. Yeah, it's definitely looking like this pot will be big enough. So we're good. While I'm doing this, I thought I would give you a little bit of a homesteading skills update, because I'm very excited about some new developments that are happening. First of all, I really feel like this bread machine that I got, if you haven't seen some of my other videos, I got a bread machine and it's really just unlocking a lot of new skills for me. I have not bought sandwich bread in you know, since Christmas when I got it. Second of all, I am taking a beekeeping class next weekend. So even though I have an HOA, they did approve keeping bees. And so my aunt, uncle, and I are all gonna take the beekeeping class, and I've ordered 2 nooks of bees, 2 colonies. And if you live in Colorado, the place that I go to is called To Be or Not To Be. They were so helpful on the phone. She walked me through the entire thing, what I should order, you know, recommended the class I take, helped me register for the class. So I am so excited to have bees and have my own honey and learn all about how to take care of them. We're starting to think about getting our garden set up for the summer. Unfortunately, my HOA has not approved having chickens, and it sounds like they're deferring the decision, so it probably won't be for another year that we get chickens. But with all of the new stuff I'm learning anyway with bees, and this will be my first year having a garden, plus I'm 24 weeks pregnant now, so in June we will have a baby, so it might just be too much to have chickens anyway this year, but I wish they would make a decision. So that's the homesteading update. Okay, so this is how much salsa we have in our pot. This should make a decent amount of cans. We are going to add all of the rest of the ingredients to the Vitamix. What's nice about this is I have to chop a lot of vegetables, but because I have the Vitamix and I'm blending them up anyway, I only have to do like a little rough chop. So it saves my eyes from the onions and saves me all the time and energy chopping up a ton of vegetables. Get another bowl for my scraps so I can compost those. And I'm just gonna chop each onion basically into, I guess, quarters. Let's do that. Still burning my eyes a bit. Now I'm gonna do the 5 jalapenos. I'm just gonna leave the seeds in. My family tends to like spicy food anyway. I'm the only wimp. It's getting pretty full in here. All right, next up is the lime juice. I now need 5 cloves of garlic. So for these, 1 teaspoon is 1 clove, so I'm gonna add 5 teaspoons to my Vitamix. There's no quantity in the recipe for how much salt, so I'm just gonna add a big pinch. And for just a single batch, it says 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, so I'm gonna add about 1.25 teaspoons. We also need to add cilantro, but this is so full that I'm just going to chop it a bit and let it kind of come down before I add the cilantro in here. This may not work that well. I might have to push it down with a spurtle. So we need about 1.25 cups of cilantro leaves. Now it's fully doing the cyclone on its own, so I'm feeling good. So this is the onion, cilantro, jalapeno mixture. All looks very blended. Okay, so now everything is combined in our pot. I'm just gonna mix it up all together so everything's nice and blended. The onions are all interspersed with the tomatoes and all of that. We're all set. It's all mixed together. I'm gonna put this on the stovetop to simmer a little bit. I put it on medium-high for right now, and I'll just stir it and lower it once it starts simmering. Now what I need to start doing is getting out my water canner, fill that up, and then start heating that up so the cans are nice and warm for when my salsa is done and I want to start canning. Here's my big boy canner. So I'm gonna stick some cans in here on the like little canning tray. So that way when I heat up the water, it will heat up the cans at the same time. So that way the cans will be warm, the salsa will be warm. I can can it, put it back in here, and bring to a boil for 20 minutes to sterilize everything. So our salsa will last a very long time. Okay, I have 9 cans in here right now. I'm not sure how much this will make. We'll just have to see if this is enough. But at least for the first batch of canning, it's gonna be 9 cans. Oh, and the salsa is already simmering, so let me just lower the heat a little bit and start stirring. Last time I made the salsa, I had to let it simmer for a really long time because I didn't actually drain the juice out of the cans. This time, since it's drained, I do actually like the consistency pretty much how it is. I just want it to be warm for the canning process. So I'm going to put the cans on the stove, warm them up, and then we can get to canning. And here's the consistency of the salsa, which I'm liking as is, so I'm not gonna add any more of the tomato juice. So we got our cans warming up in here and our salsa. So let me start prepping the canning stuff. I always put a cooling rack on the counter so it has a nice airflow to cool down once we're fully canned. I need my little can grabbers, and we need our canning funnel. So I finally got one. In my very early videos, I didn't have a canning funnel and it made it very difficult. I burned myself a couple times. So I finally got one. And then really the only other thing we need is a ladle. So got that too. Okay, after I had put the salsa in the jars, I went to go get lunch and run to the store really quick, and then I got back and realized I was really late on making the bread. So I basically just had this whirlwind bread making experience. Luckily with this bread maker, it makes it so easy. You just throw all the ingredients in, which is just salt, sugar, olive oil, water. Then I added flour and the yeast. Basically, that's all you have to do, and then put it in the bread maker and it makes it for you. So I knew at this point I was in trouble with the timing wise of when I had to leave versus when I had put the bread in. So yeah, we'll go over that whole journey as the video continues. I then ate some lunch and realized that my kitchen was an absolute disaster after all of the salsa making, the lunch, and all of that. So I took a little bit of time to just clean up my work space and tidy everything up before we started the queso. Okay, it is now 1 p.m. I've been doing a bunch of other stuff, so I have not put the salsa cans in the canner to actually fully sterilize and be canned for long term. So I'm gonna do that in a couple minutes. I've cleaned the kitchen, I've eaten lunch, and now we are gonna get back to it. Sadly, I don't think the bread is gonna get done in time. We have to leave around 2:40 and it's 1:07 and there's almost 2 hours left on the bread. And I'm hoping, because I did medium crust, it's extended the time a little bit. I might just take it out early, honestly, at the point where it's light crust, and try to do that and cool it and slice it, because otherwise, if I'm not back home till like 8, I'm afraid it'll get stale if I don't take it out and cut it. So I don't really know what to do, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Wait, now I'm gonna put each salsa can into the boiler. Now, I have one of those canning trays on the bottom, so I know I have an inch of clearance on the bottom of the can, but when you're canning, just make sure you have at least an inch of clearance on the top of the can, and these will need to be at a rolling boil for 20 minutes. Here's what it's looking like. We gotta bring it back up to a boil. It was at a boil, and then once you add all the cans in, it lowers the temperature a little bit, so I'm just gonna wait till it boils again and start the timer for 20 minutes. And then I left one can out just because we'll eat this week. I'll take it to the Super Bowl party, so because we're gonna eat it so immediately, I don't need to actually can it. Okay, at this point I needed to switch focus to the queso that I was bringing to the party. So I cut up half a jalapeno, half an onion, and then just a couple ripe on the vine tomatoes to equal 1 cup of tomatoes. And that was kind of the vegetable prep that I did. I then pulled out my new Le Creuset pot that I got for Christmas, which I absolutely love, and I melted a tablespoon of butter in the bottom. Then you add your vegetables in, let those get nice and tender and stir those around. I added a cup and a half of heavy cream, again stir that around, and then a full pound of Velveeta, which you're in the splash zone. Wasn't so graceful with that adding of the Velveeta, but you stir that around, add half a can of pinto beans, half a can of black beans, and then add your tomatoes. Now, I had to take a little bit of a break because the timer was up for the cans that had just been fully canned. So those are done, had to take those out and set them aside on my cooling rack. And then I realized I forgot to put the cilantro in and the salt and pepper. So I added that again to the queso, mixed it all around and put it into these 2 Tupperware containers. It made a decent amount, and we had a lot of leftovers from the party where there were like 15 people. Hello everyone, it's me from a couple days later. Just wanted to hop in with a quick update. The queso was absolutely amazing. The salsa turned out so good. I now am stocked up on salsa for the foreseeable future with these 8 cans. I was really nervous about the bread, as you know, because it didn't finish in time. We actually had to leave earlier than I thought for the party, and so I just took a leap of faith and said like, okay, I'll get it once I'm home. So I was nervous about that, but it turned out to be fine. It was slightly soggy, which they do warn you about, like some of the edges and the bottom were just like slightly damp when I took it out. So I just put it on the cooling rack, let it dry out a little bit, and then was able to just slice it and freeze it as normal. Not a huge deal if you have to leave the bread in the bread maker for a few hours after it's done. That is all for today's video. Thank you all so much for being here. Again, make sure to like the video and subscribe, and I will see you next week with another one. Bye everyone.